The second case would be presented by Mr. Henrique Rozenfeld, professor of the São Carlos School of Engineering.
Hello everybody. After our lunch, second presentation. I have first of all to apologize for everybody because we are not allowed even to mention something that could give you any clue about which company we are talking about. They didn't want to come and they didn't want us to present their case because it's a very strategic one and it's many secret things. And then I apologize if sometimes I'm going to be too superficial. Perhaps if you have questions after that, I can show you. Okay, we begin with our idea. We are mixing now the case with the research that we are doing. And normally the business model that we have seen, what I told you this morning, are very superficial in representation. And then we have as a figure, the canvas is the point of one iceberg. And we have seen not so many publications about practical applications of PSS development. And we think that there is a lack of prescriptive approach to help people in developing PSS. And then what we see is that in the water we have many complementary things like to configure some steps for that. I'm going to explain this in detail, up to the architecture, the process architecture that we need to provide this service. And then this research, from the point of the academia, is a research called action research. As I told you this morning, the people say that consultancy is no research. This company is a middle-sized health equipment manufacturer. They have competences nowadays in product development and manufacturing, and they come to us and say, we would like to transform one of our products from their portfolio, from diagnostic imaging to PSS. They want to stop selling diagnostic imaging products. And normally they think that the products today, they are high-cost products. To give you around information in dollars, is more or less $70,000, one equipment. And they see also that there is a market segment that they could use this as a service. They cannot afford to pay $70,000 for this equipment. And they would like to have a recurrent revenue. That was the motivation. They don't want to have this flow of selling. They would like to have a good basis of recurrent revenue. Okay. Then we begin with this figure that you already know. And first of all, since they have already the product, we went to the market and then we did business analysis. And then take a look here. Here are the product development phases, what we call front end of innovations. Development, we are going parallel to product design on service design. And then there are the phases of our framework. During this time, we are creating the business model. Then we think that the business model, as I told you, is creating during the development. In the business analysis, we got some input from the canvas, from the traditional business analysis, from diagnostic, and then based on the current KPIs, current strategies, ideas that they have, and expectations, we took a look of those things, but we would like to do something in a fast track. Then we have already used some existing information, and then we put in the traditional canvas representation current business model, and then we take a look how they work today, and then we define a challenge together with them. This kind of reductionism, I would say, to put something in one phrase, was good just to point out what they would like to have. And then this definition, a little bit blurred, because we cannot show you everything, is how to offer innovative services differentiated by each kind of customers they would like to achieve in a way that they always choose the diagnosis experience from this company based on the existing product. Okay, and then we went to the value proposition. This value proposition took how many weeks? 4 or 5 weeks, and only in 2 days work with them. And then we use an existing design think methodology. That's this methodology that the people from Bootcamp Bootleg use. And then we went through all phases. We don't have time to show you all things that we have done, but we made some interviews with internal and external stakeholders. Here you can see some post-its that you cannot read about some of the ideas that we had. And then we had around 100 ideas. And then we, based on those 100 ideas, what was the goal behind this phase? They have already the product. And then the most of the ideas were focused on the service. But we could realize at that moment that with the existing product, some of the service could not be delivered. And then we have changed also, or proposed to change the product. And we focused then on 2 customer segments, and we defined 2 value propositions. And then after that, we came to the initial business model. It's a little bit, sorry about that, too superficial, as I told you. But at that moment, when we came from the design thinking application, we had already the definition of the strategy from the segment and from the value. And then we have another kind of representations. We have the stakeholders map. We have a lot of representations that gave us the value proposition to this company. And then we wrote on the canvas only those value propositions and then the market here. It was the first step from business model definition was already done as the result from design think application. After that, we went deeper with 2 workshops with those people, and then we defined the other elements of the business model. And here we are going to show you some insights. It was nice to work with this configurator because these configurators had already many alternatives that gave us to support the definition. We didn't begin writing everything from a white paper. And then this configurator helped us to have some alternative and options that we could choose and we discussed with them. We came with cards, not really cards, with post-its. And then we came with them, and then we showed them everything and said, okay, that's one opportunity, another opportunity, this option. We discussed with them based on our experience and based on the previous work that defined this configurator, because we thought at the beginning that we could use this configurator as it was thought, but we realized that we couldn't work, and then we did this dynamic with the people of this company. And after that, we was defining the business case. This first version of business case is just to go ahead, and then we have defined the scenarios, and then based on that scenarios, we have used also a result of another research that we had, how to build up business cases in one Excel spreadsheet that we have developed for those cases. And then we came to the definition of the business process architecture. And that's a very important point that I would like to spend a little bit time over that, because if we are talking about business process architecture, what we understand under business process architecture. Business process architecture is something that if you think in this kind of relations between the dimensions of a business model, we have defined the value at the beginning, based on the analysis of the strategy and definition of the segment and application of design thinking with many, many options. And then from the value, we could define the channels to deliver this value or the proposition from services and the product too. And then how could we have good relationship with the customers? And then when we define the main activities to deliver this whole thing, we thought, oh, we could put those activities in this process architecture that would be back to the channels and could define some resources that we need, but then we defined in the scenarios who could be our partner to deliver these activities. Are we going to do everything alone, or the company alone, or which kind of partners we would like to have? And then we have a huge discussion about having partners just doing the maintenance, or partners just selling together with the business case. Because in Brazil, if you think about our law, we have complex law on tax law and so on. And then if you have a company that sells a product and you would like to become a company that sells service, our tax controllers will say, you would like to avoid to paying the industrial tax. You would like to, because the industrial tax is 18%. And then if you sell just service, you're going to pay only 5% of tax. And then you are going something wrong. You are not allowed to do that. And then we begin to have a very complicated thing. If you found that alone another company, this company, you are doing to that only to pay less taxes. And then it's a very complicated issue, the business cases in Brazil. Very complicated issue, because you can have many problems. And other thing, if you are producing the product in Brazil, this product is considered a Brazilian product. If it's a capital good, if you're going to sell this as a B2B basis, then we have a bank in Brazil, BNDES, that support innovation. And then if I sell to you this machine, this equipment, I can sell you and the bank pay me the full price of that. And you pay to the bank with not so big rates like in Brazil is used too. And then you pay to the bank this equipment. And I have already the full, I got the full money for that machine. And then it's to support the equipment manufacturers that does Brazilian manufacturers. And then which interest would I have to sell service if I can sell service through another company, if I'm selling you the machine and I can get the whole money, that's no big deal, because you are not going to pay me everything. You are going to pay monthly rate, and with the rate very lower in comparison to the rates that the bank. It is a very complicated things in Brazil. But then, if we have the process architecture somehow divided among the partners, because some partners are responsible for some activities, and then we define the resources, then we come back to the business case. That's why we have the representation here as an iterative process, and then we have this superposition here between this business process architecture and the business case. Since in that case, we didn't have the product architecture, because we defined that we are going to use the existing product, then we just developed that thing, and we have to develop also the ICT architecture. For example, they would like to have IoT in the equipment just to have feedback, because many of the maintenance that they have, they occurs in the first 6 months of using the product, because it's a very complex product for diagnosis, and then the user is not so able to do every monitoring thing. And then they do this at the distance. But at the same time, this equipment has to have a computer besides. And this computer is a regular computer. But if you use this computer for something else, you're going to have a problem. And another thing, Brazil is a huge country. They define that they are going just to work around São Paulo, a part of Minas Gerais, the other state, and a little bit here, because if they have more than 500 kilometers radius, 1,000 kilometers of supporting, would be too much. And Rio de Janeiro is out of that, because they have a lot of, they have been sued by Rio de Janeiro, because in Rio de Janeiro, the culture is something else to supporting service. And then they said, no, in Rio de Janeiro, we would like to keep selling products. It's a very complicated thing, and cultural things. It's a very nice experience for us. And then, just to ramp up and to finalize my presentation, we would like to show you something that I have already told you, but just to point out some key findings we got from this action research. And first of all, is obviously that to know the current market situation and the business was very important. It was a guideline for our value proposition, where we define market opportunities, barriers, weaknesses, and lessons learned, because they had already tried to do PSS. They have found a new company, and they went down, and they closed this company, because not, I would say not officially, but they closed it, they took back the products, they said, no, PSS is impossible in Brazil. And they are trying again, because they see that in other countries, similar equipments are selling, or the services are selling in that base. The value proposition with design thinking was a very, very important thing. One of the most important things that they didn't realize, besides the stakeholders map, they have never had before a so complete stakeholder map that they could work with, is this roadmap. This roadmap shows in the many areas, engineering, services, new development, and so on, what they should do in the equipment. And that it became a roadmap for new product development towards PSS, even though. And they could understand the customer's needs more than they are usually to do. They have clarified incorrect perceptions. They thought that something were wrong. And then, when, as I told you, this roadmap incorporated to the methodology, they had more than 35 services. And one of the problems that we had was to prototype, because in design thinking, when you think about prototyping, the stuff that you work with to prototype such kind of equipment is very limited. And then we have to work with our imagination, and piece of paper was not a good experience, this kind of prototype of this experience. And the business model up to now, we found that was a good practice to present pre-selected possibilities, because if we just beginning with whiteboard discussion, they would not come up with something that we have already defined before with our configurator of business models. And they were aware about the force of process that they have to change in their organization. That was something that I have already discussed with you. The legal and tax issues is very complicated in Brazil. And then they decide, in the middle of the development, they decided to maintain the actual business model. It means they're gonna sell the product as a product too. Mainly because they think, and we got a little from that information, that some customers would like to own the product. We are not so happy with that, but they think if one is going to pay me $70,000, why am I going to charge them for, let's say, $200 a month? And we have developed for them as a prototype too, like in the cell phone plans, different kinds of combinations. If you buy this prepaid thing, you can do so and so many diagnoses type 1, so and so many diagnoses type 2, and then you can have some offers and so on. It was a nice discussion. And the company is tending to open a new company to launch the PSS business, but the legal issues is undergoing now. What they would like to have, a model to avoid direct competition with their actual clients. What does it mean? Nowadays, they are selling diagnosis product for big labs, and these big labs, they are selling diagnosis for many doctors. And then if one doctor would have their equipment and pay a less rate for that, we are destroying the business of these current clients. And then that's a big issue, and then we are discussing what role the existing customers could have in this new scenario of PSS. Okay, next steps that we are still under development is to finish the business case, to convince them that this time they could run PSS, and then to detail and then to prepare the value chain and to launch them. What we intend to do in the next 4 months. And then, from the research point of view, we have the limitations to say more about that, because this is action research. This framework that we are going to do is based on this single company experience, and we are trying, and we have already other companies that would like to do this with us. In this case, the company decides to develop a PSS. We are not discussing the other trigger where the customer comes to the company and says, oh, I would like to have a PSS. The discussion that Marli brought today, that they are completely different from each other. Okay, next steps. We conclude to conclude this action research and to perform more case studies using that. I would like just to point out that that's a teamwork. I am the coordinator of this project, but Janaína is here, is working with us. Glauco is there. Glauco is out of working. Professor Mike is not there. Kai is not there. Karina not there. Mayara is also here. Marina is also there. And then we have more people working in this company, very intensive to create this framework and to get those informations. Thank you very much.